I just finished A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and I was pretty behind on the Game of Thrones stuff. I really liked. I loved Game of Thrones. I loved the whole show. Um, I'm not one of those people that's like hypercritical of everything. I know at some point I might rewatch it and feel differently, but I had kind of binged the show kind of leading up to the last season. I think maybe I watched like the seventh season right after it came out, so it was pretty new. And then I just had to wait like a couple years to watch the last season. But it was generally like the whole show was pretty fresh in my mind. So there was a lot of things in the last season of Game of Thrones that I felt like was paid off pretty well. And like there were certain references that if you hadn't watched season one since it came out, you might not like pick up on all those little details. But there was a lot of stuff like that that I appreciated. And I do feel like the last season was a little rushed, but I also like could see where it was going. So like to me, it didn't feel like they were making these, sudden changes and drastic decisions. Like it all felt like stuff that was, that was leading up to that anyway, and I guess instead of dragging it out, they just kind of condensed it and put it out, which ultimately I respect because there's nothing I hate more than when I'm watching a show and I feel like there's like a filler episode and I'm like, we could have just combined this with another episode and gotten on with it. Like, I want to enjoy stuff and not feel like my time is being wasted. Really loved Game of Thrones, and then I got caught up on House of the Dragon in the last month or so before watching Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And there's a lot of things I like about House of the Dragon. To me, that show feels rushed in some ways. Like, to me, the character work in House of the Dragon is nowhere near as good as Game of Thrones. Like, when I watched Game of Thrones, all those characters were like, it was really interesting what was happening with all of them. You really wanted to know each story. Every time it went to a different character's story, you want to know exactly what was going on with them. Whereas like with House of the Dragon, it's kind of like I like some characters, and some characters I really don't find that interesting. It's like they're there just to be that part of the story, but they don't ever do anything interesting enough with them to make you like want to know more about them. Game of Thrones always did that where like, take like Jaime, for example. Like you didn't really like Jaime for a while, but then eventually, once they hit you with his backstory and stuff, then you start to feel for him and start to understand him a little more. And then characters like Cersei and stuff that like you don't like him, and then all of a sudden you see him go through some stuff and you kind of respect him a little bit. Even though you don't like him, you respect him. So to me, House of the Dragon kind of suffered in that way. Like there's certain characters like when they're dying, they give them like a great death scene. But then I'm like, this character has been on screen for like 5 minutes of this whole show, and I'm supposed to like feel bad that they're dying. Like that, it's just little stuff like that where I'm like, all right, like you could have tried a little harder. But that said, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I loved it. I loved the whole show. It's just little things like it's really mostly about these two characters, but then like all the other characters in the show are also like really well written and well acted, and I'm really excited to see what happens with all of them. Like, to me, this is like a really great addition to the Game of Thrones show. House of the Dragons is good. It's just of the three shows, it's my least favorite right now. So, but I'm excited for season 3. I saw that trailer. I'm pumped, and I'm really excited to see what they do with the Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So, there you go. Night of the Seven Kingdoms.